Hello everyone and welcome to today's stream. Today we are chatting with the filmmakers who picked up the Audience Choice Award for the Hollywood First Time Filmmaker Showcase. This is our second time running this showcase, so it's so great to have this many people involved in the Audience Choice Roundtable. So let's find out who is on the stream. So Ethan, do you want to kick us off? Who are you and what is your project?
Sure. My name is Ethan Funk-Breay. I'm from Colorado, and I wrote and directed The Professionals. So.
Okay, great. And we might as well go around in the circle. Let's go next to Juan.
Hello, I'm Juan Ortiz Portas from Querétaro, Mexico. I wrote and produced Unleash a Feeling.
Amazing. Thank you. And Chae?
Hi, guys. I'm Chae Talley, writer-director of Goodbye to Yesterday.
Amazing. And finally, we have Alex.
Hey, everybody. I'm Alex Scheinman. I wrote, starred, and directed Cafe Americano.
Amazing. And I'm Natalie. This is Hugh.
Hello.
And Rupert is on my lap as well. So how this works and how this normally works is that we will be swiftly moving on to Chae's film, where we'll have it muted in the background and there'll be a director's commentary discussion. The chat room is open, so if you do have any questions about any of our filmmakers, please feel free to drop it in there and we will do our best to answer any questions that you may have during the stream. So let's get going. Let's start with the first film. So let's start with Goodbye to Yesterday. Chae, let's just get straight to it. What inspired this story and why did you decide to make this film?
So I, last year, early in 2020, was suffering from like the worst writer's block I'd had in like a very long time.
Okay.
I had been cranking out lots of scripts before that. And then when the pandemic hit and there was all this political turmoil that we had, it was just, I was glued to like all the news outlets all the time. You know, it just, my house looked like a broadcast center just because I was always streaming everything because I was just so engulfed in it. And I found that it had just like torpedoed any sort of inspiration or creativity that I had for about like 4 months. And finally, I kind of took a break from all of it. I turned off all the news, all social media, everything for about 3 weeks. And then I was able to sort of take all of that, process it and turn it into, this script. So this script was sort of me working through everything that was going through that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We've just seen the opening here and instantly you can see that the cinematography is amazing. What did you shoot on?
So we shot an Arri Alexa with anamorphic lenses.
Okay.
First off, with cinematography, I have to mention our DP, Tate McCurdy, is absolutely unbelievable. I honestly tell him all the time, pull him aside and tell him he's the next Deakins. Like his eye for gaffing and lighting is unparalleled. I mean, I was so blessed to have him and Colvin, who is his best boy, on every image that we had. Even just simple wide shots just felt beautiful. And as a director, not having to ever worry about that really allowed me to focus on just working with the actors. And I was incredibly blessed with that.
You've just given a golden piece of advice which we try and relay to first-time filmmakers here at Liftoff, and that is to work with an experienced DOP who knows what they're doing and can bring your vision to life, which means that you're then free to focus on the direction and getting that all in place as well. So I'm glad to hear that you had that and it paid off. That is absolutely stunning to watch. Another thing I wanted to discuss was locations, because you have lots of fantastic locations here which just make the piece look so rich. How did you go about securing some of these locations? I guess at the moment, what we can see is the cemetery.
Right. Yeah, I feel so bad for my AD, Michi. She was such a trooper, going through this because we shot it in 3 days, and in 2 of those days we had company moves, which on a short film was ambitious, but we had, I think it was 7 locations total. And so luckily, we had some people come through the bar that we shoot in that you'll see a little bit later. They were nice enough to let us shoot for free. The cemetery, all we needed was permits. The prison was actually the one that kind of caused us the most stress because it's at the Mira Loma Detention Center up, and it's about maybe 2 hours away from LA.
Okay.
And it's an old prison that the rumor is that there's only like one prisoner that's still there that they keep there just to keep it running. But from what I understand, we were the last production that was going to be there because they were going to be shutting down that prison. So we shot on November 3rd of last year. So we're coming up on exactly a year ago tomorrow.
Yeah.
And this was at the height of the second surge over in the US when productions really started shutting down, which was nerve-wracking for us because we had already put in the deposits and everything, which is one thing, but if we had to push back, we were gonna lose that prison, and it's very hard to come by actual prisons to shoot in over in Los Angeles right now. And then most of the other locations we were able to shoot by just using permits. Later you'll see we shoot out on a jetty that's in a small fishing club out on a lake. And then our friend Amber, who's also our makeup artist, was allowed us to use her house, which was really nice.
Yeah, great. I mean, that must have been so stressful battling with the fact that you might be going into another lockdown. That must have been tension running through your production team at that point.
Yeah.
But you managed to overcome that, and you managed to shoot at that fantastic location, the prison, and it has definitely closed down now.
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't followed up.
It's when we speak to filmmakers who have amazing locations, we always like to find out if they're still available so we can share it within our network as well. Completely different location, but one of our filmmakers shot a one-take film in a kitchen in a restaurant, and it was actually a college. It was a school for to become a chef or to run a restaurant, and because of that, the space was so wide that there was so much more you could do than actually visually capture if you were in a normal kitchen. So when you were saying about the prison and all of your locations, I was like, right, we have to get to know if this is still available so we can share it with our network. So it's a shame that it's shut down, but
I mean,
good story,
if it is,
it's just interesting because there's lots of big features and they're set in prisons, and more often than not across anywhere in the world there's 100 or so prisons that aren't in use anymore that they can just kind of lease out. I'm sort of wondering if maybe there'll be more films shot there in the future, maybe, especially if it's not being used, because it's such a handy space. And if it 2 hours out of Los Angeles, one of the film centrals of the world, then you think that people will be really taking advantage of that fact. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if it wasn't bought up by a studio. I mean, right now it is still run by like the state, so we had to go through the sheriff's department and everything like that. But because it is just getting so dry out there as far as those locations. But for all filmmakers out there, if you're looking for a prison in Los Angeles, it's called the Mira Loma Detention Center.
Thank you.
And it's up in Palmdale. So give them a call. There's a chance maybe COVID throws a wrench in things. So maybe it's still there.
So in the UK, studios are popping up left, right, and centre. Like there isn't enough space to build film studios. Is that the same in America and in Los Angeles?
I don't know. I feel like we're kind of seeing a lot of like digital like studios that are not like physically. I think we're seeing a lot of stuff that's like pushing towards like VR and CGI stuff. So a lot of people are setting up almost like pop-up studios all over the place. At least that's what I've seen. I mean, obviously in LA we have all of the big ones that are around there, but I feel like you're just seeing with the push of technology that a lot of new ones are coming up that can build up in an apartment space over a couple of desks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see how the landscape moves forward. Now we're kind of moving on past COVID. Okay, my next question for you was your casting. Your cast is fantastic. Each and every single one of them, their performances are really believable. Which route did you go down to find your actors?
These are all my friends.
Amazing.
I was incredibly blessed. Honestly, like just to like put, I did nothing on this movie. I did absolutely nothing. I had an amazing DP and crew. All the actors were amazing. I just kind of sat back and just watched it come to life. I did nothing. No, but all of these people, ironically enough, a lot of these people and I worked in the same restaurant together. So the three that you actually see on screen right now, Cassandra Daly, Michael Derrick, and Andy Cohen, we all worked at the same restaurant over in West Hollywood. I shot a comedy pilot a couple of years ago that we got a write-up in the Hollywood Reporter for that talked about how I had used like 40 some odd employees from that restaurant in that pilot. And it's just, for me, it's easy for when I know the people, because I can take them, like when I'm directing them, I can take them places where, I've seen them in person, I've seen those emotions in person, so I can push them there. And then Tamara Voss, who plays Mike's wife, which you'll be seeing right here, the couple that's squabbling, was a friend of Cassandra Daly's and mine. And then Mark Forget, him and I worked on a film back at USC. We were both actors on a short film. And so anytime I have an opportunity to bring him in, he's an incredibly talented theater actor from Canada. And, he actually just came in and also saved us, because we are doing a physical premiere in France at the end of the month, and we needed French subtitles. And unfortunately, the translator that we hired, it looked like just plugged it into Google Translate. And with the deadline coming up, he was able to come in, and he spent hours just fixing all of it for us.
Fixing the SRT file. Yeah, going through completely. It's funny because one of the Lifter festivals is based in Paris. Our Paris festival is currently running. And when we do it in the live cinema spaces, we always offer to translate their film or translate the SRT files. Luckily, we've got quite a lot of good and French natives who can do that for us. But I have heard horror stories. So I'm glad to hear that you got that sorted out. Will you be attending the festival in Paris or in France?
Yeah, that's because that's been the hard part about obviously COVID, which I'm sure everyone here is familiar with. Is it's like you put all this time into it and not getting a chance to see it in person, in a theater setting is tough. We actually got into our first Oscar qualifying festival a couple weeks ago. The St. Louis International Film Festival. And we were very excited, but unfortunately the short films are only going to be premiering online. So there's this this festival, the Indie Cannes Short Awards. So I'll be flying out there to have that in-person premiere at the end of the month.
And I take it that is in Cannes?
It is in Cannes, yeah.
Ah, lovely. It's I think MIPCOM is happening very soon. So maybe it's tied in with that. Amazing. I'm so glad to hear that you're actually going to be able to see it on the big screen. And France is such an amazing place. There is an amazing pizza restaurant that you need to go to in Cannes. I have forgotten what it's called, and I'm hoping if Claire is listening that she'll put it in the chat room. It is fantastic. The cheese just goes on and on and on and on and on. They just pile it on over there. So I'll find out what it's called and I'll recommend it. It's right there.
If Claire doesn't come through, I'll stop at every pizza shop along the way and find it.
Yeah. It does lead on to my next question regarding festival selections and how your film is doing on the circuit. So apart from this next French screening, do you have anything else coming up in the pipeline?
We've done most of our stuff. We were lucky. I think we've received almost like 50 total accolades over the course of its run, which we're very blessed by. And as you can see, like a lot of that is based on the actors. Andy Cohen, like our lead who plays Clayton, is just a powerhouse. I mean, I had only seen him do comedy stuff, because he's based out of Groundlings. He does a lot. He works a lot in TV, but mostly like for comedy stuff. But, kind of the same way Bryan Cranston going from Malcolm in the Middle to Breaking Bad, you see a comedic actor bring out their dramatic chops and you're just blown away. I mean, that was really what was amazing about that. So
I feel like if you can nail comedy, then you're covered in every other aspect of the acting industry. Comedy is the hardest one to get down. So. Yeah, fantastic. Does anyone have any questions for Chae? Any of our other filmmakers on the call today? Yes, Ethan, go for it.
Hi there. I'm very curious about some of the methods you use. It's very visually beautiful, and every frame is you could look at for a long time. I was wondering if there was any sort of narrative choice or stylistic choice because there are a lot of like the shot of the two of them next to the pool. It goes on for a long time, but you almost don't notice it because it is still a very a very interesting scene. So I was wondering if there was any sort of narrative reason or any other that you decided to kind of let the camera rest there for maybe longer than what's typical.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and thank you for asking. The movie Drive with Ryan Gosling was one of the big things one of the first movies that I watched that I started thinking like a filmmaker. that I started thinking like, wow, I started thinking about the lighting and the cinematography and the music and everything like that. And so if you look at sort of the palettes and the shading and the lighting and a lot of the shots as well, a lot of that is inspired from that. And one of the things that I noticed about Drive was the confidence with the directing and with Ryan Gosling's acting that was just very patient. And for me, I found out that what I like in a style, because I think Denis Villeneuve does the same thing, where when you have the right DP and you have the right actors, you don't need to cut as much. I mean, that's a personal stylistic choice, but that's what I feel. And just allowing the actors to just act and let that carry the scene, because the picture is there, it's as pretty as it is, and just sort of letting it do it. And I loved the idea of staying in that one shot and not taking. And that was actually one of the harder shots that we had, was the shot by the pool. Most of our takes, because the actors were so just on point, were done in 1 or 2 takes. That one took 13 takes, and it was very cold, and they were absolute troopers about sitting there and doing it. But just more the racking back and forth and getting the timing so that it was always on and consistent was great. But what I wanted to do was sort of elevate the emotion of that moment, of 2 people who, we all have those friends or family where you'll go years and years without talking, and you reconnect, and it's just exactly, where you were. And with Clayton, who's been so closed off, this is one of the first times where he's kind of just like letting his guard down a little bit. And so I kind of wanted us to all feel that same sort of like relaxing of the movement of the movie, so that we can sort of build back to the tension at the end and the climax in the prison.
Wow. Cool.
It's just interesting that on the screen now we're coming to sort of one of my favorite moments of the film, and that's when the father character comes in. Even in that short moment, it's another amazing performance, like on top of all the other great cast members of this film. But in the opening, when he's talking with the father on the phone, you don't see the father character until sort of the last couple of minutes. Was that always the intention? Is that there was going to be sort of this reveal of the father, or did you consider? Because I was wondering, are we going to meet the father at all? Is he going to kind of be this unseen presence in the film? I don't know if any ideas like that kind of evolved during the writing process or even during the editing.
Yeah, no, that's a great question too. No, we definitely played around with it in post. Originally in the script, it was how it was finally executed here, where we don't really reveal him until the end. And that was intentional. What we wanted to is I wanted the audience to kind of feel the same sort of crypticness around, Billy's character of the dad, and sort of show that the movie isn't about, his dad, but that it's about him, but sort of building up that expectation of like, who, like the monster that's hiding in the dark, just sort of hide him away as long as possible, just so that reveal, because as you can, as you see playing right now, Mark is just, he's just incredible with where he was going with it. And I thought that the longer that we could hold off before we actually show him would just add so much more emotion and power to that last scene, because it's, we're all kind of discovering it together in those final moments. And then there's so much that's jam-packed in those few seconds that it really just hit it home. We had tried kind of cutting in little snippets of his face early on, and we found that it worked much better just showing him just at the end.
Yeah, I think it's sort of about keeping that balance as well. You almost don't want the audience to be thinking through the whole runtime, when's the dad going to show up? When's the dad going to show up? Obviously there's so much, more important things in the story to think about. It's, right. Just a real stroke of, directorial brilliance in getting that right. Just, my compliments.
Were
Thank
you
you
in the editing room for the majority of the cut, or did you have an editor who took the reins and then showed it to you at a later date?
I actually edited it myself for most of it. And then luckily, my friend Griffin Devine came through and sort of polished everything at the end. But I decided that because, we had spent so much on the locations and the crew and everything, that there wasn't a whole lot left for editing. And we were pushing against a deadline for Tribeca. We had wrapped production, and, the deadline for Tribeca was only like 30 days away. And so, having to try to get a full edit and color and sound and everything all done. And then I decided to kind of cut back on the weeks of back and forth working with an editor, where it's like, I already know what I want it to look like in my head, so I'm not going to punish a poor editor who's going to take, 5 shots in the dark at it and just be like, is this what you're looking for? So I thought I would spare them that work. And so I did the first few passes myself.
Amazing. Then I guess my final question for you is, and this is a question that actually there's 2 more questions. What's next? What is next for you? What are you working on now?
So after we finished that, I wrote the feature-length version of the movie.
So are you using this as a proof of concept?
Using this as a proof of concept.
Amazing.
So very, very happy about it. What we are, we're working on just getting it in development, but obviously going from a $25,000 short film to a $5.5 million feature film is a big leap. So we are currently in development on it, especially, with a first-time, filmmaker. So what I'm doing is, that is currently in development. I have producer Mark Mathis on, who is sort of coordinating all of that. But while that's happening, I'm working on writing a micro budget feature, that I can shoot for, like $100,000, with friends and on favors on the weekends, just to get a first feature under my belt. Because I feel like before I can take the reins on a movie that size, I want to get a full length.
With the up to the 5 million that you're looking for, that you'd still like to direct it. And it's still very much your project. You're not happy for a studio to step in and kind of be like, well, we're going to put our own people on this now. You would prefer to do everything. No, that's absolutely fair. And good luck with everything. There's a whole other discussion to have on distribution and the best way to navigate the market. There is no best way. You just got to get your project out there in front of the right people. But if there's time at the end, we can delve a little bit more into that. But good luck with everything. I guess the other question I was going to ask, and one that I think is quite nice, and it puts everyone on the spot, so I'm sorry that I didn't pre-warn you. But I guess, what is your favorite film?
Oh. Honestly, Blade Runner 2049 is my favorite film. I've always been a big fan of the cyberpunk genre. I think it's one that is it's just great. It's just a very nice way to kind of envelop current social issues and tackle them in a way that's much more digestible to everything else. And Denis Villeneuve's ability to take on, I think that was one of the most ambitious things, to follow up Ridley Scott's original Blade Runner and be able to pay homage to it, honor everything that he built, but also improve upon it in a way that was his own. It was just one of the most, and it's a beautiful movie. It's an incredible movie through and through. And I just think perfectly executed. So that's it.
Cool. Well, I look forward to finding out what everyone else's favorite films are, and got a little bit of time to think about that, because it's an awful question to ask anyone, so I'm sorry I put you on the spot. Okay, moving on. So we're going to move on to Cafe Americano, which is your film, Alex. I'm just going to set that up this side.
No worries.
And here we go. So that's now starting. You should be able to see it any second now. But why don't you start by telling us a little bit more about who you are and what inspired you to write and direct and perform in this piece?
So I'm also like your lead, Chae. I've spent a lot of time with the Groundlings. Been spending, before COVID, was doing stage shows probably the last 3 years, just all over the place, and all my friends from those shows, and who are fantastic, and a lot of them are going to be in the Sunday Company at Groundlings coming up, who were in the film. We just performed a ton together, and I had this idea for just an absolute menace of a filmmaker, and I thought that it'd be great to use these people who are so funny and so talented, who maybe haven't gotten their shot yet, and really deserve it. And I think it's they're so funny in it. I think that kind of was the purpose behind it, to kind of bring these live shows that we did that were really successful and really fun and great to a larger audience.
So this is a mockumentary, just in case anyone wasn't aware. It's a mockumentary. How did you piece the structure of the film together? Did you sit down and write an outline of the script, or did you improvise the whole thing?
This is actually fully scripted.
Okay.
It's not necessarily a mockumentary like Best in Show or Waiting for Guffman, where there's so much of it is kind of blocked out in an outline, and then you figure it out when you're there. Like that, it is scripted. But yeah, I had the ending first. I knew I wanted him to sell out while getting ripped to his face about how terrible he was, and from there, I kind of set up the plot.
Great. Got Venice Beach coming in at the moment. So this is shot all over Los Angeles. Did you have any problems with getting permits or nailing down any of the locations?
I had an amazing producer who kind of handled all that, and weirdly, it's not really shot in that many places. We I think do a pretty good job of kind of tricking people. We had one house in North Hollywood that we shot the majority of it at. We had a very small studio in Burbank that we shot the other part at, which is supposed to be a small studio in Burbank, so it kind of works. Then we shot a few outdoor scenes, which you actually don't really need much. I think it's just it's a small part. It's not a big deal anyway. We just went out on some hiking trails, and then trying to think, we had a small house in Santa Clarita that we rented for the morning, and we found an office in Santa Monica that we used, and so it wasn't too many locations.
Yeah, nice.
The opening montage, we just drove around with cameras in the car and just I tried to shoot things. Yeah.
Great. So this is a feature length. How many days were you shooting in order to get it to the length that it's at?
We shot for 17.
Okay.
Which we were busting on this for sure. I mean, I think we're averaging like 8 pages a day. And for budget, we cut the crew after about 13 days, I want to say. And we had just a real skeleton crew for the last little bit when we could kind of, it was written in a way that we could kind of trim the manpower down. Those hiking scenes, we had sound guy, one camera operator, an AC, and that was pretty much it, and the actors. So, it was about 13 days of full filming and 17 total.
Amazing. Well done. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, because on Film Freeway we have access to see all your specifications, so we could see what the budget was for your film. How did you go about funding it?
So that was, I put in a chunk of change and then just friends and family. And it was very self-funded little thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well done. Really well done in getting the
Thank
feature
you.
off the ground. There must have been some hurdles that you had to overcome during the process of the filming. Do you have any stories that you can share?
There weren't too many. My producer, I think, would be able to handle those questions better than I can. But as far as I didn't have to know about the setbacks. I can tell you some, like a funny thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Originally in the script, I don't know if y'all have seen it, but there's a scene where my character has a breakdown, and he has constructed a vision board in his bedroom that looks more like a serial killer's basement. And in the script originally, I wanted giant cutouts of Ryan Gosling and for his eyes to have been cut out, and never explained, just that Mikey has a weird, jealous, love-hate, destructive relationship with Ryan Gosling. And on the day, my producer's like, we can't use that, like, his likeness. CAA owns the brand of Ryan Gosling. We can't do that. So we had to completely rework the entire scene on the spot, and it became the thing that Mikey has written in blood, "Write what you know," on his wall. It was because we couldn't use Ryan Gosling. I don't know if that's technically a setback, but
I guess so.
It felt like one at the
if you have
time.
that image so strong in your mind of what it is that you want, and then you find out on the day that you can't, it is a little bit like, deflating, I guess, is a good word.
And I think really deprived the world of getting to see Ryan Gosling with his eyes cut out.
I know, he
Been
seems
fun.
to be having a theme in today's stream of Drive, and now...
He needs to be taken down a peg.
What is his next film? I don't even know.
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, I don't know.
We
I
won't
believe
digress. We won't.
I believe he's playing Ken in the Barbie movie.
Oh, yeah, he's doing that. That's right, with
Yeah.
Margot Robbie.
Okay, well,
Yes.
is that not going down a peg? Maybe ever so slightly? No? Maybe?
I don't know, because he's still really handsome, and that's not fair to anybody.
It's
really
true. And
upsetting.
he is playing against Margot Robbie, so probably not. Damn.
Yeah, the two of them are just gorgeous. That's
Yeah.
not...
We'll just
Not
do a
right.
stream on Ryan Gosling's filmography next. I think we'll get everyone
Maybe,
back.
maybe. We'll get the same panel back
Yeah.
if everyone's cool with that. Yeah, great. Well, I guess we should continue with your film. How's it doing on the festival circuit?
It's doing pretty well. I actually flew in from the Virginia Film Festival last night. Played there, and it went really great. It was great to see it in a physical theater and sold out house. It was really a lot of fun. So it's there. I think it's going to be in the Golden Gate Film Festival in a few days.
Nice.
So that'll be an online screening, but still, we're really excited. And yeah, it's been doing pretty well.
Great. I guess this is a good opportunity to find out what your favorite film was.
My favorite film. I would say I love the Coen Brothers. I think I'd have to say The Big Lebowski is definitely top 3. But for today, I'll say it's my favorite film.
Okay. Cool.
I think I love just their take on LA and kind of the weirdness of the city that I think is kind of underplayed in a lot of people's minds, where they think it's this glamorous, gorgeous place, which is kind of what we've tried to do in our film, where it's a bit seedier. It's a bit, we have strange karaoke bars in Burbank, and we have porn sets, and it's a bit more, I think, of what people don't normally think of when they think of LA, and Big Lebowski is very much that.
Yeah, nice.
And now that you say it, I could definitely kind of see the influence in there for sure. Yeah, especially when it's, thinking about Los Angeles as a location and almost as a character in itself. Like the movie business is just kind of this entity that hangs over the piece. Definitely, yeah.
I think especially.
Sorry, we were actually talking about one of the Coen brothers' next film, which is Macbeth.
Yeah.
It's
just the one Coen brother.
The one Coen brother.
Yeah.
Excited that. I believe they've shot it digitally, but they're printing it onto film or something like that. It's a very interesting take in order to get that grain effect, which I'm very interested by. Anyway, does any of our other filmmakers on the call have any questions for Alex? Go on, Chae.
Yeah, what's your problem with Ryan Gosling? I'm just messing. No, I'm just messing.
I'll get into it. We'll do it.
No, real question. I worked with Gabriel Karnick on their short
great.
films back at Chapman, and so I just wanted to know, I know my experience was amazing. I assume yours was too.
Yes.
I just wanted to hear a bit more about how that whole collaborative process went, because I'm sure it was just fantastic.
That's too funny. Yeah, Gabe is an amazing woman. She's intimidatingly knowledgeable about cameras, and I couldn't have asked for a better collaborative. I know very little about the technical side of filmmaking, and so I really had to lean on the people in my crew, and Gabe was probably the person I leaned on the hardest. She really came with an idea already kind of planned out of the look of how to achieve that documentary style, and also shoot the film within the film in black and white, and kind of how to make that look pretty, but also have Mikey's terrible direction in it. And I have nothing but amazing things to say about Gabe. She is so talented. Yeah.
Great. What's next for you? What are you working on now? Are you sticking in the comedy realm, in the mockumentary realm, or what's next?
Definitely, I tend to write comedies, whether I mean to or not. I'm writing scripts. yeah, kind of seeing where this goes. And I have a few scripts in my back pocket, and if anything happens to go with this, I'll be like, hello, here's this as well, please. So yeah, that's kind of my situation right now.
And after the festival circuit with Cafe Americano, what's the plan? Are you going to try and distribute it, or
would love to distribute it. Honestly, I'm very new to all of this. Gonna kind of see who knows what, and ask some questions after the festival run is done, and try and get it out there. I mean, love for people to see it, you know.
Are you attending any of the panel talks at AFM at all this year, considering you're in LA?
No. I'm not. What is AFM?
AFM is the American Film Market. It's one of the biggest distribution and sale agent kind of meet in the world.
See how
it takes place in Santa Monica.
Oh, great! All right.
It's in hotels dotted around there, but they often do lots of panel talks and discussions and best kind of practices for filmmakers in order to get their projects in front of the right people and what it is that they're looking for. I know a lot of the time that they're looking for family-friendly content, which is always a little bit of a difference to what we do on the festival circuit. We kind of create films that we're passionate about and are maybe a little bit more art house than the traditional family-friendly content that is often sought.
Right.
But there's so many great advice that comes from the markets. We usually attend all of them, but this year we just physically can't get to AFM. It's also a place where all of the sales agents go, and our buyers are looking around, seeing what's selling at the markets that year. It is a really interesting place to go. You just realize how many films are out there when you walk into a space like that. I would say also that 60% of sales agents, especially ones that we've spoken to, like to get on board with a project at the beginning stages. So you have a proof of concept, you have the kind of the script almost ready to go. Maybe you've got a little bit of funding in place as well. They like to get on board with the project then. But if you've got a completed project, there are still a lot of sales agents out there that like to take on something that's had the festival circuit, it's now ready, it's almost packaged up and can literally be sold to a VOD platform. Shoreline's a really good example of that one. Yeah, just depends on where you're at and what you're looking for. But there's a platform called Cinando. It's spelled Cinando, and that's basically where you can get all of your meetings prior to attending a film market or outside of a film market. It's where all the sales agents, distributors live. And on that website, they have direct contact emails, so you won't be talking to any info ats or reception. It's always the direct contact of the acquisition team that you're looking for. So, Chae, I know you were saying you have a producer on board. If you already have a list of production companies, sales agents that you'd like to get involved, you can head on to Cinando and get the correct contacts and then give it to your producer, who is, I guess, solicited in order to speak to these companies.
That's fantastic. Right. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. And then IMDb Pro is also an amazing resource to find out who's distributing what. Then you can link back into Cinando and find the correct contacts.
Right.
But yeah, it's just one small step in this massive puzzle that everyone has to go through whilst making filmmaking.
It just all changes. It's so funny when, the right document or film or script falls on the right desk at the right time.
Yeah.
Just like that, and it's all go.
Yeah, all go. Networking and partying is the best way to do it. Always a good gin and tonic or drink or whatever. Amazing. Do you guys have any questions or any final thoughts before we move on to the next film? Anything for Alex? No? All right. Well, Alex, thank you so much for filling us in on Cafe Americano. And thank you for screening.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on now to the next film, which is Unleash a Feeling. So, Juan, do you want to tell us a little bit about what inspired your story, this musical adventure that you're taking us on?
Well, yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, for inviting our film. And, well, it all started around 10 months before the recordings. I joined with Andres Roca, with which I wrote the script. And I talked to him about my idea of making a short film that would be divided into 3 chapters, 3 characters, 3 stories united by a catastrophic events. A little bit tribute to Mexican director González Iñárritu with his films Amores Perros, 21 Grams, and Babel, using a little bit similar narrative structure. And on the other hand, well, my background is a musical composer, and I always loved musicals. I wanted to make something a little bit experimental, but also existential, making something inspired or similar to Pink Floyd's The Wall or Tommy by The Who. So well, we had the structure, and then we started to talk about the possibility of making an inclusive, modern love triangle involving 2 women and 1 man, in which one of the women is at the center of the triangle, leaves a man, and falls in love with another woman.
Wow. Yeah. Very cool. So I take it then that you composed all of the music for this piece as well?
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
You
So
can
what we
also
can see...
listen
Go
to
on.
the music at our Spotify channel.
You can find it on sorry, what was that?
You can also listen to the music of the short film at our Spotify channel.
Oh, very
Oh, it's
cool.
on Spotify. Oh,
Sorry.
cool.
I thought you said Shopify, and I was like, it's Spotify.
Spotify.
Amazing. Amazing. So how did you go about then piecing this story together and laying out each step? I take it you had composed the music to begin with and then decided to put the narrative on top of it.
Yes, more or less. In fact, it was composed and developed at the same time.
Oh, cool.
And it was all about to keep walking. In fact, all the pre-production process was very enriching and was very interesting, and was an 8-month preparation for a 2-day recording.
Okay.
So at the end, you see 12 minutes of short film, but in fact, there are months of work behind this.
Yeah.
It is interesting that all the script flowed by voice notes, and we in fact started to put everything in paper 3 months after we already had all the ideas and the story. And then every single step, every single thing around the story was taking place and was getting into its right point. Everyone, it's a short film made by friends. So as Chae, I was also really blessed to have friends that trusted in the project, that would be able to be there and make their best in every aspect of the film. So thank you to all our friends that participated.
I think you have a few of them in the chat room at the moment. They've been saying hello and congratulations to you in the chat. So that's great. I mean, it's so good to have friends that you can rely on in order to help get your vision off the ground as well. So you also have quite a few different locations for the music or for the short film. How did you go about securing those?
Well, it was all recorded in Querétaro, which is my hometown. Basically in 2 places. Downtown Querétaro, which is a very colonial city or part of the city. Mm-hmm. And in the Presa of La Llave, which is also called Acapulquito, which is a lake around 1 hour into the field. And in fact, it was really easy. The places in downtown are a restaurant with different spaces. which we used to adapt to make or to try to express different places during the story. And again, a house of a friend, which who just landed us, and I felt it was totally in line with the story.
Amazing, amazing. So was this your first film that you created yourself?
Yes, it is.
And
First time filmmaker.
what advice would you give someone who is like thinking about making their first film? What advice would you give them?
Okay, first of all, that every moment well spent in the pre-production is gold at the production stage. And even though you have to adapt and react, read the situation, because something is going to be uh, out of control. It's going to be different about the plan, and you have to keep shooting. You have to keep moving, and that's it. That would be my advice: to focus in action and make things happen.
Just make things happen. Yeah, absolutely. The preparation side of things is so important, and I think a lot of filmmakers, whether it's their first or second production, often fall down there, especially when it comes to, this is such an important point, but very much overlooked, and it's like feeding your actors and feeding your crew, and just being prepared in that area. Just keep everyone happy, and your production will be fine. We often talk about that, don't we?
Yeah.
We've heard horror stories where from actors, because at Liftoff we work with actors as well, and they're just like, we turned up on a shoot and there was literally a banana for the day, and they're like,
yeah, I've seen it happen.
It happens so often.
When you don't feed actors, it's not good.
So that's all very much part of the preparation. If you can get that right and get everything ready prior to the shoot, the 2 days or whatever amount of days, unless you have something that really stumbles you or takes you off track, then it should hopefully go smoothly. So with this being your first experience, are you now ready for your next film, or what are you working on next?
Yes, definitely. I just started writing my next script. I have in mind a feature film, which is called Surrealist. And it is about the bastard son of a British nobleman that arrives to Mexico to build his own surreal castle. And it is based on the life of Edward James. And the surreal castle, in fact, exists in Mexico, in Las Pozas, Gilitla. And in fact, I'm planning to travel in the next few days to Las Pozas to enrich the script and start picturing possible locations.
Amazing.
Ooh.
Wow. So you're like diving straight in there from a short film, now going straight into this feature where you're writing the script. That's so cool. I haven't actually heard of that story of an Englishman going over to Mexico to create his surreal castle. Wow. It sounds great. It sounds really, really cool. I guess we should ask you the same question as well then, of what is your favourite film? You mentioned a few at the beginning, but...
Yeah, 21 grams, I was saying.
21 grams,
I can definitely see the resemblance in the film now thinking about it, because, yeah, it's just that brilliant non-linear style that he has in that particular one. You know, I think non-linear narratives can get tossed around a lot these days without sort of doing much that's kind of new. But with 21 grams, it's so interesting. I don't know, I can't really explain it. Have you seen 21 grams?
No, I haven't.
Go see 21 grams, and then we'll come back to this.
But is that your ultimate favourite film, or what would you say is like the one that made you want to get into the film industry? Slightly different question.
It is really, really difficult to choose one just film, or one single film. There were many during my childhood that motivated me to be a filmmaker. I love Stanley Kubrick. I love, for example, Braveheart and the time. But if I have to choose only one, I would choose Amores Perros for what it meant. Yeah, I think there's a before and an after in Mexican's cinema history, before and after this film. I love the construction of the characters, the construction of the story, the narrative structure, and the semiology between men and dogs.
Mm.
So I strongly recommend it. Amores Perros from González Iñárritu.
Amazing.
That's very nice. It's on the list.
It's on the list, added with all of these other films. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Juan? Yeah? Okay, Ethan.
So you're saying before how the production of this short film was kind of made kind of roughly the same time as the music was. So I'm curious if there was any sort of relation on how the visual story you wanted to tell affected the music, or vice versa, where the music, obviously the music dictates what the story, but I'm wondering if the reverse of that is true in some cases as well.
Yes, definitely. The first of the chapters, the song is named Still on Time, and it's all about resilience, about facing difficulties. The second chapter is named Once, and it's all about enjoying your life. It's about getting in love again after a catastrophic event. And finally, the third chapter is named Unleash a Feeling, which is a very existential song based on a reflection of a couple of essays by Gilly Povetsky, and it's all about that in a world in which we are sometimes bombarded by too much information, and we have so much information that everything goes a little bit to fugacity, and at the end what people search or what people want, it's a feeling that stays, that perdures.
Nice. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So your film has just finished. So I think we'll move on to the next one. But I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story, and good luck with the script for the feature. It sounds very interesting, and I look forward to hearing more.
Thank you.
Okay. So moving on to your film, Ethan, and the Professionals, the Western feature. Let's get it going. Do you want to start by telling us a little bit more about the inspiration behind your film?
Sure. Yeah, I came up with the concept for the Professionals when I was in college. In college, I was in a film production club, and I had been a part of and directed a few short films, and Westerns has always been, one of my favorite genres. And after finishing up production on a short film, I thought to myself, it's like, oh, it'd be really cool to do, a Western one day. But then ultimately I decided, it's like, well, let's see what we can actually do with it. And so I decided to actually take a risk and go for it and just see what happens. And then it started off as a short film, actually, with just like a film that just appreciates the genre. But then I started getting more and more ideas, and the film kind of started to become its own thing. It wasn't necessarily concerned with just being qualified as a Western. It actually started to become its own story. And as I came up with more of those ideas, and as I had the desire to flesh them all out and see them carried through, and then that's when we ultimately decided to make it into a feature instead. Not necessarily because we wanted to make a feature, but because that's what the story needed, and so we decided to carry that out. Yeah.
Amazing. Wow, brave step to jump from something that you thought you were making was a short and then into
Yeah, it took a lot of prep time. Yeah.
Yeah, going back to that golden rule of prep.
Exactly.
So I assume you had a set budget to make the short film, and then you went along and extended it. Did you have to go back and find more money to fund the feature, or did you use the same money that you would have used for the short to just stretch it out for the feature?
Yeah, we didn't exactly have a set budget. We never, like, we're all children basically, you know, a lot of us are still in college or straight out of college, and so we didn't really have a set budget beforehand. We kind of just, we got things as we needed them, and so we had a camera, we had sound equipment. I had all these wonderful actors and people who wanted to be a part of it to begin with, and so there were some things that we needed, like get some better light stands, especially for some of the night shoots.
Yeah.
And but ultimately we just had what we had. Like, you know, you kind of just work with the best of what your circumstances are, and instead of, you know, throwing money at the problem, because money's tough to come by sometimes. And so, yeah, so I guess the simple answer to the question is that, yeah, we just had we didn't go back for anything. We had what we had. Yeah.
It was lucky that you had access to equipment through your college. Otherwise, it's insane how quickly a camera hire builds up, and whatever else is just, it's crazy the amount it comes to. What was the camera that you did shoot on?
The camera was a Blackmagic Pocket 4K Cinema, and all the equipment we have actually isn't through our college. It's all owned by Chloe Colleen.
Oh, amazing! Even better.
Yeah, it's owned by Chloe Colleen, who plays the lead in the film as well, and she brought a lot of the main equipment on set, and I have her to thank for that, and bringing all the cool toys that we could have and play with. So
I'm actually a massive fan of the Blackmagic cameras. I just think they are great, especially for like filmmakers who are starting out in the industry. They are just so compact, and they capture everything that you need, really. But
they do, yeah. And 4K footage looks pretty cool, yeah. So
exactly, and not a lot of places support 4K, like our laptops and screens. So just to be able to have that capacity, you could take it into cinema space, and it would still look amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just so funky, like looking at the scene that's on the screen now, you know, already in my mind there's 100, you know, cinematic influences flashing through my mind, you know, The Man with No Name trilogy, El Mariachi, Lots of No Country for Old Men. Were there any kind of films you specifically looked at when it came to crafting the story and kind of the look? Because, you know, yes, as Westerns go, it's an interesting one, because it kind of has sort of elements of crime caper to it as well. You know, was there anything, like what influenced the script? Any particular movies you want to...
Probably the biggest ones to influence the script were largely, I guess I'd have to say, Coen Brothers based, because I big fan of No Country for Old Men, Fargo as well, where it's kind of like small town crime, you know, with these very big characters. True Detective is another good one that I referred our DP Nick Carlson to, as far as like what I want it to look like, you know, the shot that's on right now with the direct heavy yellow sunlight.
That's true. Again, you know, I sometimes sort of don't pick up on these things, and I'm watching it, and then when they're brought up, it's like, oh yeah, that's it. That's where it is. You know, especially have you seen True Detective?
No, I'm just gonna say no to everything.
True Detective season 1, I should say.
I really got to do it again. Yeah, just, you know.
Where's that one available? Is that
HBO?
Is it?
It is HBO.
Oh,
yes, it is. Yeah.
So Sky here then. Okay.
Or, you know, DVD or Blu-ray.
Or DVD, Blu-ray. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Wow, that was a bit of a sidetrack.
Yeah.
I guess with this now a feature film, did you have lots of hurdles that you had to overcome, and if so, what were they?
Oh my gosh, yes. I'd say the biggest hurdle of all of it was just scheduling.
Yeah.
Because the film has a fairly decent sized cast, you know, and I think there's maybe 15 to 20 people in it. But But when you have that big of a cast, and some of the smaller shoot days weren't so bad, but some days you have to get 10 different people all in one place all at one time, and all those people have jobs or work or other projects they have to do, and so
cool. It's our side, but I think it's a
oh
manner building here
very good.
that the internet sometimes goes down is so frustrating. But yes,
All right.
working with a large team of actors and getting people there when it's a really small organizational team, it's so stressful. I do not envy that job at all.
Yeah.
So it's still buffering. I do apologize. But we're back. We are back, and everyone else is back on screen.
Oh, you're okay.
Cool. All right. So this is now complete. It's doing the festival circuit, I take it. So how are you getting on there?
It is, yes. It's slowly but surely. We've been doing the festival circuit since last March, I believe, and we've been doing fairly well. We got into our first one was we were nominated for the Lonely Wolf Film Festival in London.
Oh,
We received best first time film for the Austin Arts Festival, and we have some other festivals that we're waiting to hear from throughout the year, and then onward to 2022 as well. And yeah, I'm just happy that people got to see it as well, and it's a continuous process, and we'll see where it goes. But it's been very, very surprising and very awesome so far. Yes.
amazing. And have you been able to attend any of them in person?
We unfortunately haven't had any in-person screenings. All of them I've either been online or purely for awards and stuff. But we did throw a test screening here in town with a lot of the crew and some of the other local filmmakers that we know. And so that was the one in-person screening that we had, which we're fortunate and lucky to have. And we'll probably plan something in the future just so that we can have that again. Exactly. Yeah. And just so that we can have that again. But yeah, time will tell. So
Amazing. Sorry, I keep looking over to the screen to see it's still buffering. It says it's still coming through, which is
right.
a bit
It's a pretty playing on my
internet
end.
went down.
Sorry, guys, just having some technical difficulties right now.
Okay, are we back? I think we might be back. I do apologize. Sorry, Ethan. That wasn't cool.
No, you're okay. I appreciate it.
Hopefully everyone can catch up in what we were speaking. It didn't go out of the live, but it just collapsed a bit. Did Chae and Alex, did you hear everything that we were talking about? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for Ethan?
Yeah, one of the things when I was watching yours that I loved is I'm a big fan, and I did mention this before, of Breaking Bad, and I think Vince Gilligan does a great job of doing or did a great job of doing that kind of contemporary crime Western. And I saw a lot of that in this. Do you think that's a path you're going to continue with forward, or are you going to branch out into some other genres, or what do you think?
It's definitely something I'm still interested in, and so I definitely will continue down that path. But I'm also very young, A, in general, and B, as a filmmaker, and so I do want to experiment a lot with different genres and different things, which is what I'm doing with this next short film I'm doing right now. But no, I'm a big fan of Breaking Bad, and as I was saying before, True Detective, and Fargo, and the small town crime, and so it's definitely something I'll probably still continue. Also, just because the scenery, in the thing that's playing right now, the open road and the out in the middle of nowhere, and it's just very wonderful scenery that I like being a part of, and that's often affiliated with those kinds of things. And so I'll definitely continue with that, but also try some new things here and there when I feel that it's time. Yeah.
Amazing. Did we get your favorite film of all time?
No, you didn't, and I was dreading that question. Yeah. Yeah, it is like one of those things where it's like kind of on the day. Right now, I'd have to say it's probably The Green Knight, just because that's fresh on my mind.
Cool.
As I was saying before the thing started, I'm also a huge fan of 2049. I could watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou at any point for however long. Yeah, big fan of like Coen Brothers and that kind of filmmaking. And so right now, I guess I'd say The Green Knight. So
Amazing. Well, considering I think the internet is buffering again, I'm really sorry about that. It's been really, really nice chatting to all of you, and I do look forward to watching and seeing what you guys are doing. If you need any help with anything, we're always here. You'll always be a member on the hub, so do reach out to us there as well. But thank you so much for taking the time to join us and sharing your stories. And I think a lot of people who did manage to watch this will enjoy what they saw today. So again, thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you very much. Yes.
That is everything then.
Best of luck, guys. Take care now. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.